Bigger, bigger, better, faster, stronger. That speaks volumes to the guest we have today. I am super excited about our guest. Mark is the owner of Your Nurse Health Coach. I can't speak today. And Lonvya, which we'll ask him a bunch of questions about because I don't know what that is exactly. He is a person in motion, whether it's swimming, running, or training for his next triathlon. But life threw him a curveball a few years ago in the form of a cancer diagnosis. And while he is super grateful to be cancer free, and we're grateful for that as well, at this point, the road back to his old self, so to speak, wasn't easy. He struggled to regain his energy, his activity levels that he once took for granted. Refusing to settle for tired, he dove into research and found peptide therapies. Super excited to talk about that one. It was the key to unlocking his recovery and helping him rediscover his vitality. So now he uses that passion to work with his clients so they can have some amazing breakthroughs as well. Mark loves to help high performers stop fighting their own bodies and start fueling themselves for potential by optimizing their own biology. So, Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I am super excited to dig into a few of these topics. I discovered peptides a long time ago, but I still really don't actually know completely what they are.
Well, it's real simple. Peptides are things that are already in your body. So you already have these things. So in a lot of cases, what they call peptides, can be precursors to get a peptide in your body to do something, or can be a enzyme molecule that moves things a certain way. So there's, I think, 35,000 different things in your body, if my memory serves me correctly. And you can tweak them. So you can tweak your energy, you can tweak your visceral fat, you can, GLP-1s right now are the rage in peptides because everybody, sorry about that. Everybody is wanting to lose weight. And we're seeing huge things happen with this. And where GLP-1s started out a few years ago, they have gone a completely different direction in the way people are using them. They're finding out that there's all these great little things. Inflammation's a huge thing, especially here in America with our diet and exercise. These people that are getting on these GLP-1s are finding out they're losing these 10, 20 pounds. That's great. They're losing the fat, but then they're also finding out that inflammation's going away. So now they can get out there and run and they can get back to exercising and they can get back to this energy. And then again, you have other ones like NAD. We can go on and on and on about different ones. But the real point of this whole part is our healthcare system's broken. And unless
Mm.
you yourself are going to get out there and do things to stay out of the healthcare system, you're going to probably wind up there later on in life. And you really don't want to do that.
Agreed. Before I go on to my next question, I do have a little bit of a question. And excuse me if the answer isn't like either right at hand or appropriate. But the question with something like inflammation, now we know that inflammation is not all evil, right? We need inflammation to do certain processes in our bodies. So, what happens if we are annihilating our inflammation, and that's really good on some cases? Is it possible that it could also be not so good in other cases?
Yes.
All
So
right.
that's a whole nother deep dive. That right there itself is a whole discussion to get into that. Because even though some peptides do help you with inflammation, do they get rid of all inflammation? No. So it's
Right.
still there. Your body's still going to have it. It just lowers it, like in some cases, to where you don't feel it as much. And those barriers that people say, oh, I get up and I'm, all sore in the morning and this and that. Well, some of these peptides keep that from happening. And when that happens, that gets you out there to exercise. But when you exercise, you're still going to get some inflammation because that's what your body does.
Right. That's good to know, and I would love to take that deep dive. Maybe we'll get you back for a deep dive on the inflammation aspect of things, so people maybe understand their own bodies a little bit more. I
Oh,
know I, for one, for years tried to get rid of all inflammation, and it's like, oh, that's not actually healthy.
yeah, you don't want to get it rid of completely. Your body has certain warnings and it wants to tell you things, and you need to listen to it.
Absolutely. So, on that note, you actually have a real life education on
Yes.
health. You are a nurse, an RN, I
Yep,
believe. Is that correct?
correct.
And
Yep.
you are back in school again, learning more for able to help us, which is super
Correct.
exciting. Do you find there are any conflicts with your education versus your learned experience?
With our education, especially in nursing, we are really taught in those cases how to handle people in a hospital setting, and you're taught with people who are already have been through an emergency room with some kind of procedure or something, and we're taught, hey, this is where you're at. You need to meet the person there. We're not really taught, hey, how do we keep people out of the hospital? How do we get people to be healthier? A lot of time, most of what we do is reactive. And what
Mm.
I'm trying to do is very proactive. Keep you, get people in shape, get people eating healthy, get people doing the right things, making those lifestyle modifications and those body changes to where they don't have these issues later on in life that put them in the hospital or, with 500 different polypharmaceutical pharmacy stuff. There's a lot of simple ways, and a lot of times it's just minor tweaks that we need to do that can make huge changes for us down the road.
I love that. Inside right now, I'm keeping myself contained, but inside right now, I am doing a happy dance because that is you are speaking my language. Speaking of, what helps you prioritize your own health on a daily basis?
I've worked in the hospital system. I mean, just being there, I still do work in
Ooh,
the hospital, and just seeing what you see when you look at the people that are in the hospital, and 80% of that is just them and their choices in life. And had they made different choices earlier in life, they wouldn't be there. We could easily change what we're paying for insurance, all this kind of stuff, and what we're paying for healthcare just by making some lifestyle modifications. And they don't have to be drastic. A lot of people come to me and say, oh, I need to lose 15, 20 pounds. You don't need to lose it overnight because it didn't show up overnight. It took you years to put it on. And it'll take, 6 months to a year to take it off and doing it the right way. So
that is brilliant. I love that. Speaking of lifestyle tweaks and such, what is your current favorite form of self-care?
wow. I love to exercise. That's number one. Um, it helps, just helps with your mental status, keeps that, stress, keeps your cortisol down low, just keeps things going, lets you kind of, get your mind in its own place. You get those endorphins, which are wonderful, especially after exercise, the tail end of it. Um, Part I don't like about exercise, yeah, you're going to feel some inflammation, especially on the longer run of bike or swims. You're going to have a little bit of it, but you get used to it and you learn how to, use electrolytes and amino acids and eat right. And that kind of changes a lot of that stuff off. And you stretch and do other things to do that.
Awesome. So I'm sure you've heard the saying, people come for one reason, they stay for another. I always like asking, what brought you to this profession in the first place? And then is it the same thing that keeps you here?
So, I first wife passed away, unfortunately, and we ran through the whole medical gambit with her. She fought brain cancer for many years, and I saw then like something's got to change. So I literally sold my IT company and went and got a nursing degree. Got into this, and the more I found out, the more I worked in the arena, the more I saw what was broken and that people could make changes ahead of time. And then when I got my cancer diagnosis, it was very simplistic. They had a regimen that said, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And I did those things. And I wish later on that I had known more about it because I would not have done some of the things. Um, Chemo is a powerful drug. It does a lot of damage to bodies. In some cases, doing chemo is not a big percentage of help than not doing chemo. And the side effects of the chemo and what it does to the body can be detrimental for years and years and years down the road. So, in my case, with what I had, I was 98% fixed with a procedure, or I should say 96% fixed with a procedure, and then 2% doing on the chemo. That's not how they put it to me. They said, oh, it's 98% effective. Later on, I learned, should have listened, should have asked more questions. Didn't know. But once I learned, now through this whole process of what I've been doing and getting my energy level back and getting some weight off and getting all this other stuff, I am back to where I was in like my 20s and 30s where I can do triathlons and things. And
Amazing. I'm so, thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't know most of that. And I'm sure that the people watching did not know most of that as well. I love that. I'm actually very, very, um, what's the word I'm looking at? I'm a geek. Let's put it that way. I'm a geek and I love to read everything there is to do with health and wellness. So I'm actually reading the textbooks for functional medicine right now because that's fun for me. And one of the things that they say in there is modern medicine likes to prescribe this is if somebody presents with this, these are the things you do. And the fact is that even if three people are presenting with the exact same thing, they didn't get there the exact same way, and you can't get them out of it the exact same way. So we need to be a little bit more precise and specific to the person. And I understand that that's far too difficult to do en masse, but we have to get a little bit closer to it, I think. So thank you very much for sharing that. That's probably an eye opener to some people.
I'm seeing a lot of people, including myself, getting into functional medicine. It's realistically, it's down the road, it's going to be the new norm.
Mhm.
The doctors you have now aren't that way, but a lot of them now in these medical schools are learning some of this stuff and they're implementing it in their practices. And then you have a lot of nurse practitioners out there now who are opening up their own functional medical practices to where they can combine traditional and functional at the same time. And I think
Amazing.
that's what you're going to see is a huge thing coming down um, into the medical arena, so to speak.
I love that. That literally warms my heart. All right. This next question is always one it's throws people for a little bit of a loop sometimes. My next question for you is what would 10-year-old Mark think about the man that stands in front of us today?
I think he'd be happy. I think back at when I was 10 years old and what I was doing, and I think he would be happy. I was a huge swimmer back then and still am. Love swimming to this day. Did it, my whole life. Went and swam for the Navy and all kinds of other Coast Guard stuff. So, um, always was outside, always go, go, go. And I'm still in. So I think he'd be happy.
I know he'd be happy and proud. Well, Mark, I would love to have a conversation to dig a little bit deeper, like we said, into the peptides specifically, possibly on another show if you are willing to agree to come back and
Totally.
talk to us again. That would be
Totally.
awesome. Now, if somebody has been watching and they're like, how do I get more of this gentleman? How do I work with him? How do I see what he's doing? Is there a website? Is there social? We'll put some of your social media in the show notes, of course, but what's the quickest way for them to get a hold of you?
Go into your YOUR nhcnursehealthcoach.com. And when you go in there, you can actually click and get a free meeting with me. You can also do the metabolic audit, which is a nice in-depth of who you are and how you do things and what you're all about. And we go through that and come out with this is what things need to be changed in your life, your lifestyle, how you can tweak certain things in certain areas. It's like I said, it's very in-depth. It takes a time to do it. So we also have our Lonvya site, LONVYA.com. That is our boutique peptide site. And it's basically for people who kind of already know what they want to do. They have, or kind of have a good way of doing it. They click on what they want, they purchase it there on the site, and they have a link sent to them. A doctor will meet up with them off that link, and a few minutes later, they're done. And we ship the prescription out to you. The doctor should say ships prescription out to you. You usually have it within 48 hours.
Wow, that's pretty quick. That's amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Mark. And for you guys out there watching, if you have something that you would like to talk about in the health and wellness space, maybe it's your story, maybe it's a story of you helping others, or maybe your community at large, I would love to have that conversation with you. So please reach out at JULIEBROOKS.LIFE. We're waiting to hear your story as well. Thank you so much for watching today. Thank you, Mark, for your time. Appreciate you immensely.